Hey guys, SeanB. Today I will be showing all of my dungeon farming team for all the dungeon in one video, and I'll have timestamp down below for you guys to check out the relevant dungeon team that you care about. I'll be showing from Kairos to Rift, the Rift Raid to all the other stuff as well. And for the last time of 2023, because this is going to be the last video of 2023, if you enjoyed the video, leave a like, leave a comment down below about what you enjoyed from this channel in 2023, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. To be honest, I can't believe this channel survived another year with Summoners War, but I'm pretty confident next year is gonna be a banger with the 10-year anniversary. The things that I'm doing in this video is I have runes on every single dungeon because I'm a lazy man. I don't want to change rune around when I want to farm a new dungeon. Kind of lazy about that, but personally, I would recommend you have your best team in the dungeon you plan to farm for that month, and don't spread rune arounds like me, okay? First, we have the Giant Abyss Heart team. I'm still using this team. It is still the best team for most people if you have a Teshar. If you don't have a Teshar, then you're probably going to be running some Veramos, Wind Ifrit, Wind Homunculus with the Defense Breaker, and maybe another support unit. For this team, we will have Teshar as the Wave Killer. I have Teshar on Broken Set, attack, crit damage, and attack. No particular reason for the shield rune, just attack, crit damage, attack. And you will also need some speed and Teshar as well. You might be wondering, Sean, the dungeon is water. Why do you have 70% crit rate if your leader skill is already 33%? Because Teshar will be responsible for killing the crystal in the trash wave as well. And the crystal is elemental neutral, so you will need to have minimum 67 crit rate. So I can reduce 3 crit rate here and get a bit more damage, but I'm already overkilling most things in this dungeon, so I'm fine with that stat. The fastest unit to move on the team will be Prelia to provide a defense break for the team. Triple Fight will be the recommended build, but if you can't, you can go like Double Fight Blade, Double Fight Focus. The dungeon boss has only 50 accuracy, so you only need 35 accuracy, and if you have accuracy in your artifact, you might even lower the accuracy of Prelia, and you can even attempt a damage build for this unit, which you don't have to, but if you can, you can. Next up in the turn order will be Konamiya, who will be a bit slower than the other bigger bird, and there's no real requirement for this unit stat except for the speed to be slower than the yellow bird and fast enough to boost the bird, and that's pretty much it. Triple fight, and I just have random fight rune right here, and we are good to go. Shaman will be responsible for killing the mid boss, and I'm using Blade, Will, and Broken Set. The Will set is actually for the Necro dungeon. If you're only farming this dungeon in particular, you don't use Shaman anywhere else, you can reduce Shaman crit rate to 67 and boost the crit damage by even further, and you're gonna be doing even more damage and the run be faster potentially. But I'm using Shaman for Necro as well, so there's a will set there. I will explain the will set later on, but the Shaman build is pretty much attack, crit damage, attack. I think attack is not that important. The skill 1 scale a little bit with attack, but mainly you will be doing damage with the skill 2. So have as much damage on Shaman as possible in the crit damage section, and that will be it. And the last to move will be the Wind Homunculus. The name because this guy actually bought me packs, and I summoned an LD5 from the pack, so unbelievable. Every time I look at his name. Attack with damage attack for my Wind Homunculus, and because the Wind Homunculus will only attack the mid boss and the final boss, which are both water unit, I can reduce the crit rate to this amount and it's gonna be just fine. Because with 33 crit rate leader skill and 15 from having the better element, this is more than enough. And for this unit, you want attack with damage attack, broken set, nothing in particular. Ideally, you want this guy to be around 169 speed total, including the tower. So you can have him move in the mid-boss stage as well if you have a weak-ass shaman like me. If your shaman is like rocking 250 crit damage, you probably don't need this guy to move in the mid-boss at all, and you can have him even slower. But my shaman is not hitting that hard in the mid-boss, so he will need to do the finishing touch as well. So let's go for one quick run here. We have the defense break allowing the bird to one-shot the golem. I think without the defense break, I can still one-shot the golem with that stat. And the mid-boss, as I said, if you have a better shaman than I do, you can actually... The skill just happened to be perfect, so Shaman could one-shot the boss, but most of the time, my Homunculus will have to do the finishing touch. And in the final boss, you defense break, you do the damage, and pretty much if Shaman decides to go skill 1, the run will be 40 seconds because we will have to watch the boss attack animation for a little while. But if Shaman decides to go for the skill 2, then it's going to be super quick and very easy. And here, the Homunculus come back. It might look like a very close run, but this is pretty much the normal run, and the homunculus will always destroy this boss. I think the worst case scenario is you never land a single defense break, which might happen sometime, but it's very, very rare. And the team is pretty much 99% win rate. So it is still one of the best team out there for Giants, unless you are putting in LD Nat5 and all that good stuff, which I don't have. So I'll be using this team, and most people will be using this team as well. And once again, if you don't have the Tasha, you will have to run some sort of Wind Homunculus, Veramos, Prilia for defense break, Wind Ifrit for the damage, and some other unit, and you will be just fine as well. And that is my Giants team. Now moving on to the Dragons Abyss Heart. This has been my Dragon Abyss Heart team ever since I successfully built the team. Quite challenging, to be honest, but very rewarding. If you don't have this unit in particular, you will have to run Vert and Water Twin, or Vert, Spectra, Crow, Veramos, and your run will be a bit slower. But if you have this unit, do try to build this team. It is probably the most rune intensive dungeon in my opinion, but this team is just so satisfying to watch. The first one to move will be the Shina, who is on triple fight, and she will provide the AoE defense break. Unfortunately, in this dungeon, you will need your Shina to have decent accuracy because the boss does have good resistance. So my build is speed, crit rate, and accuracy. She doesn't need to do like any real damage in this dungeon. If you can build like a damaged Shina, that would be insane. But my 5 runes, just like most people, are very terrible, so I can only somehow make this speed, crit rate, and accuracy build. The next one to move in the run is going to be Julie. If we have AoE defense break, Julie one-shot the wave, very beautiful. If we don't have AoE defense break, Julie can still do very good damage all the time with perfect AI, and the other unit will do the cleanup job. So Rage Blade, attack with damage attack. I think this is the minimum speed for this unit. If you have Julie slower, you experience the mid-boss cutting in between your Konamiya and your Water Dowsum, or Water Poison Master. It is because of the hidden speed tick attack bar mechanic of this game. So you need Julie to be at a certain speed so that when Konamiya boosts the Water Poison Master, he will actually take a turn. So I have additional damage and artifact because you will not have defense break when Shina decides to derp. So you want as much damage as possible that ignore defense. So additional damage by attack will be the best choice for Julie in this dungeon. Cow will be the main damage dealer for the mid-boss and the final boss. I have Rage Blade build, attack with damage and attack. This is actually not enough to trigger the perfect AI of the Water Weapon Master, but to get to that perfect AI point, I think my Cow will need like 400 more attack and maybe 20 more crit damage, which is impossible. It is insane. I have crit damage here and damage on fire. Pretty much it. If you can have accuracy for him so that he can have the backup defense break, that would be great. But because the boss have like 80 resistance, I think 10 or 20 accuracy will not make that much of a difference anyway. After the Water Poison Master take a turn, this is the same Konamiya from the Giants team on triple fight, boost his attack bar, and then he will clean up the trash wave and do more damage on the mid-boss and the final boss. Liam, the Water Weapon Master, is the one enable this dungeon. He is on Blade Broken. I do have an extra 5 set here so that my Julie can actually kill the small crystal in the trash wave, so that if Shina miss the defense break in wave number 3, like she land no defense break with the skill 1, then Julie can actually kill the 2 small crystal on the side, and then there'll be only 3 target left for Cow to finish. If Julie cannot finish the crystal and there are 5 target left in wave 3, then your run will fail. It happens very rarely, but it does happen. So this guy is on Blade, attack with damage, attack broken, and we have crit damage here, pretty standard stuff. I think you can replace this guy, but I'm not sure about that team in particular. So you can actually take Liam away and put in like another bird, but I haven't figured out the speed tuning for this team in particular, because after the slower bird boosts Cow, he will not actually move. So I think I need to speed up something in the team, but I'm not too sure about that, so I will not guide you in that regard. And I heard that if you happen to have this guy in your team, he can also ignore defense when the boss is at a certain HP amount. But I've tried him out and I just can't get him to do enough damage to kill the boss, unlike Liam. So if you have this guy and your runes are really good and you are just very unlucky and you don't pull a Liam, then you can give him a try as well. Probably similar build to Liam, just big damage and he's gonna be the one that will finish the boss just like Liam. Let's go for a quick run right here. So we'll have AoE defense break. This is the perfect run. Starting off already, we have defense break in the mid boss. So the only way to fail is China missing the defense break altogether, which can happen from time to time, and I accept that because I get such a beautiful run time with this team that a hiccup here and there nowadays is actually okay. Back in the days, we were hardwired to only accept 100% safe run, but nowadays people are a bit more loose with their standard. Losing 1 or 2 in the auto run is just fine because the auto run will still continue nowadays, which is great. So people are chasing for faster run time, maybe not 100% win rate, which is this kind of team or the Giants team, because there's always a chance that the defense break will miss altogether, because this game is just like that. Stupid innate 15% resistant. So there's always a small chance that you will miss your defense break and your run will fail. And there's really nothing much to do about it because this is a speed run, right? Everything have to run and happen accordingly for the team to succeed. And that small little hiccup. Oh, one thing though, in this particular situation where Liam doesn't use skill 3, Liam will also make sure that your team will succeed because the damage that comes after will put the boss very low. So Liam will always use skill 3, and because he's a water unit, it's very hard for him to die to one boss attack. So Liam is just superior in so many different ways for this dungeon, unfortunately. Next up, we have Necro, which is probably the most free-to-play team in all of this video. There are no 5-star here, and these units are much more achievable compared to getting a Liam or Tasha. So the first one to move in the team will be Abigail. They buff her AI to never use skill 3 when there are no buff in front of her. So unlike before, you have to use an unawakened Abigail in this dungeon. Now you can use your awakened Abigail, and she will only use skill 2 and skill 1 before the boss stage. I think even in the boss stage, she will never use this because there are no buff to strip anyway. So mine is on Violent Revenge, Attack, Crit Rate, and Attack. You have to be minimum 169 speed again, so I think I can make her a bit slower and more damage. But her main job is to defense break, and she doesn't really do any real damage anyway, so I don't have to do that. And the next one to move will be Ikaru. Ikaru is 169 speed for a reason, because I also use Ikaru in R5. So Ikaru can be faster, just doesn't have to. So Ikaru just needs to be on high enough defense and at a certain speed, and the team up happen, the damage happen. Next up, we have Rauk on Whale Shield Blade. Why is this thing on Whale Shield Blade? I think I was building it for the Punisher Crypt. Attack, crit damage, and attack. Pretty much here to team up with the Star to clear the trash wave and also provide multi-hit in the boss stage. Oh, he needs to be on Will because the boss will steal your Star, and the Star might silence your Rauk, and the Rauk cannot team up when Rauk is silenced. So I think Will is recommended. But I guess if you don't have the wheel set, you're going to be okay as well. But wheel, blade, and whatever, and you're going to be just fine. Next up, we have a star for clearing the trash wave and doing massive damage on the boss, damage on dark and the artifact to be specific. And Vampire Revenge. If you don't have Revenge, Vampire Blade is fine. Sometimes you Revenge and you can have lesser hit on the boss shield, and that's amazing. But that is just like once in a while thing. Vampire Blade is more than enough because she will be doing a lot of damage on the trash wave, and the Dark Golem actually reflect damage back to her. So she might die if she does too much damage. And lastly, we have Shaman here on Will as well, because you don't want a star to silence Shaman, because the skill 2 is where the main damage come from. You need 85 crit rate for the boss because the boss is a dark element unit. And that is pretty much it. I think if you can stack Revenge on your team, that'd be great. But you don't really have to. So defense break happen, and then the Rauk will team up, clear the trash wave very, very quickly. And if you happen to team up with Abigail, you have the defense break here set up once again. And that is pretty much it. This team is very, very good. But the worst thing about this dungeon is not the ability to build a good team. It is the fact that the boss actually take a turn before you move in the boss stage, and that wastes a lot of time. And you have to attack the thing that is on the boss stage as well, which is kind of annoying. So Will said right there, if I get silenced, I can't team up, which can be very inconvenient. And that's pretty much it. You take back the star and the boss doesn't hit very hard. And if you Revenge here and there, you get the defense break in. The boss is very, very easy, especially if you have Shaman who can do a lot of damage and potentially heal your team as well. And that is my team for this dungeon. If you don't have Shaman, I know some people do. You can just put in a Fire Panda. I think it's going to be amazing as well. Fire Panda skill 3 can do very good damage. And Fire Panda multi-hit is amazing at the same time. So this is the team I have for my Necro Abyss Heart. I farm Necro only when I'm leaving my phone or computer for like an hour. If I know I'm leaving the phone or computer for an hour, I'll turn on Necro and it will run like 30 minutes, including the loading time. In total, it'll be like 45 minutes, which is really amazing when I don't look at my phone very frequently. Now, let's talk about the dungeon that I never farm at all, but there's still a team going for it if I really want to, because I'm just reusing all unit. So we have a star that we saw before, we have Shina we have saw before, we have the Raok that we just saw as well, and then you just have to have a Vert on Shield Rune or just attack with damage attack, and that's just fine too. And the only thing I have to build new for this dungeon is this guy. So he's fastest in the team, he provides attack and crit rate buff for the team because you need the crit rate buff to defense break the boss, and that's pretty much it. So it's very convenient because all the unit I use in this dungeon if I want to farm some extra fight rune, because Seal Rune is bad. They should buff Seal Rune in 2024, but if I want to farm this dungeon for any particular reason, I can do so because I'm reusing all unit from other team, and that is pretty amazing. So you have attack and crit rate buff, you have damage from all the fire unit you're bringing in. I think you need to have your Vert plus 50 speed minimum, 50, so that he can move in the boss stage if he doesn't get teamed up by Raok. And that is pretty much it. I saw that my Vert was not moving if my Vert had like 30 bonus speed, which is rather inconvenient. You want your Vert to move in the boss stage as well. And as you can see, there's a small degree of inconsistency with this team because of the boss Oblivion, and it can potentially screw up your defense break and damage output. But overall, I think this is still going to be one of the best team out there, and also no Nat 5 involved. You probably can put in Brandia for a faster team, but because I don't farm this dungeon, come to us, please make me farm this dungeon. Like, upgrade this dungeon, please. So the team is there, but I just never farm this dungeon for any particular reason. But next up is the dungeon that I need to be farming. You need to be farming a lot for the next couple of months because artifact is a real problem. So this one, we have to build many new units. First will be the Zinc 2A. So he'll be responsible for blocking the boss shield and also clearing the trash wave. Mine's on double wheel guard because I want more chance for him to block buff in the final boss stage, so I don't get stunned by the boss after turn 1. But if you don't have double wheel, you can just go fight rune and guard rune and you're gonna be just fine. So defense, crit damage, defense. I have additional damage by defense here because once again, you will not have defense break in the trash wave. So ignoring defense damage from the artifact is much better than having crit damage in your artifact. So additional damage by defense if you can, and he'll do more damage than having more crit damage. Follow up by Gina, who will also provide the block buff and good AoE damage for the trash wave. And Gina is on additional damage by attack as well. A lot of people DM me and ask why they can't clear the trash wave consistently, even though their stat is similar to mine, but then the artifact is not. So the additional damage by attack is really, really important and helpful. And the third one to move will be the Lauren, who will be on double wheel fight, because once again, after the first turn, if things go really rocky, I need my team to not be stunned, especially Lauren and Zing, so they're on double wheel fight. But once again, if you don't have the wheel runes, fire rune is gonna be just fine as well. And next up is my new addition to the team. You might have seen me use Ken and Brandia for the crit and leader skill, but because I'm building Brandia max crit for the auto dungeon, so I want to use something else instead of Ken, and I'm testing out Lexi, and she is incredible. She provides branding and silence. You can actually put the silence debuff on the boss. It doesn't affect the boss, but the debuff is there, and that will help with Brandia damage. And this is like a mini heal block without the need to land the heal block on the boss. So the boss heal a lot, but this decreased the boss healing by half. And after the boss heal a lot, she can actually ignore defense. So if things go really wrong, she can be the one you need to ignore defense later on. I still fail with her, but she has been very interesting to use and looks very cool in the runtime because her skill animation is so fast. I got new best runtime 20 seconds with this team, and it's incredible. Lastly will be Brandia max crit, which is not a condition for this dungeon because I'm using her in the Punisher Crypt as well, and that boss is light, so I need max crit. But for this dungeon, if you're running Ken or Bernadotte, the Fire Shadow Claw guy, with the leader skill, you can run her crit rate down to like 52, which is amazing. But you can run her 85 crit if you're using an attack lead. Because I'm using for auto dungeon, I'm putting 100% crit rate anyway. So attack with damage attack and damage on win if you're using her in this dungeon, and crit damage in the artifact. Okay, let's go for a run to show you guys the amazing power of this team. If you don't have Lexi, you can also try Raok or the Fire Beast Hunter, who can put branding and heal block, which can be interesting as well. But there are many options in the last slot. The biggest condition is probably the brander hitting as hard as possible. So we have big, wow, just one shot. Because Lexi animation is so fast. I've been getting 20-second run and it's just very, very satisfying. If you can't run a speed team like this, I think you can just replace Brandia and Lexi with just Raok and maybe a healer. And your run will be much slower because you have to take your time with the boss. But I think it's totally fine. You don't have to run speed team like me because most people, you guys don't even farm enough or have enough crystal to farm. So there's really no rush to get like a super crazy speed team anyway. All right, we've got branding. Boom. Ah, missing a little bit of damage. If I build Brandia just for this dungeon and I can reduce her crit rate, then I think I could have killed the boss right there. Because I'm a lazy man, I'm also using Brandia for the artifact dungeon. So I don't want to switch rune around very, very often. The final Kairos dungeon is going to be the Punisher Crypt. I think I made a video about this recently, but I'll go through it quickly. Once again, we have Edgar for the attack buff and the slow debuff. We have the wave killer Julie. We have the secondary wave killer Necro with the slow debuff as well. And then we have the defense breaker Prilia on Will Rune so that you don't lose the attack bar when the boss AoE. And Brandia for the one-shot damage. Can you run auto unit like Brandia? Yes, you can, but it's just not as good. I think Brandia has slowly but surely become the triple S tier unit for dungeon because she's usable in so many Kairos dungeon and she's also usable in almost all the Rift Beasts if you want to as well, and she's usable in R5. She is just the queen of PvE. She used to be the meme of PvE because her name is Brandia, but she doesn't brand and she does less damage than Crow. But nowadays, she does way more damage than Crow, and she is just so popular with that big fat damage of her. And that is all of my Kairos dungeon. Pretty much it. Very solid, very fast, and very crystal wasting. But speaking of crystal wasting, I think this is gonna be a bigger dump of crystal than any of the Kairos dungeon. We have R5. So my R5 team has been very similar for the longest time. I still run the triple Doggo and Vert and Hua on the left side because I can't be bothered to build like the 20-second team because this 30-second team already burned my crystal at a crazy rate. So let's take a look at the rune once again. On the left side, we have Freya, who will die and heal my entire team and cleanse my entire team of debuff. We have Ikaru on guard Will. I don't think you need the Will rune anymore because I was testing out some other team, but triple guard is totally fine. Remember, the total speed don't exceed 169 so that the boss will attack first on all three fronts so that you will have a synced up run. Next up, we have Raok. Doesn't have to be on Will, doesn't need to have max crit because we have fire crit related skill everywhere here. So he can actually just be on any random rune and as much damage as you can. But once again, I build this for many other dungeons, so the rune might be overkilling in some of these units. Next up, we have Crow, attack with damage attack. Doesn't have to be on Will. I think Rage Guard or Rage Energy to make sure that Crow doesn't die after the jump is very important. Hua on random rune is fine too. As I said, I was testing some other teams, so everything's on Will. Doesn't have to be on Will if you have Freya on your team. If you don't have Freya, which some people actually don't have Freya, then you do need Will, and you put some other unit up there to provide more damage or team up or whatever. But if you have Freya, you don't have to be on Will. And attack with damage attack, enough stat to survive the jump, and you're good to go. Lastly, we have Vertihau on attack with damage as well. So anything that is fire, if I'm using in this team, I can have like 58 crit rate, and that's going to be more than enough. Middle team, we have first Ayunu to brand the boss. When the boss attack him and he revive, he will brand the boss so that everyone else can do massive amount of damage. This guy is just here to put a slow debuff on the boss in the first turn, and that's about it. I used to run like the attack bar booster. If you can also run this guy in here, and he can be a tanky on Will, and he'll boost attack bar after the boss jump, and that's gonna be very amazing as well. So I used to run him. I don't know why I was using the other living armor for the slow debuff, but anything here is gonna be just fine. The first one to move in the middle team is going to be Ken on Fatal or Rage or whatever you can want. Make sure he's on Will so that he doesn't get debuff in the first turn, and he's going to do massive damage. He doesn't have to survive after the jump. He can die, so you don't have to worry about his HP and defense. That's totally fine. But he's only there for the first turn damage. After the boss jump, we have 3 damage dealer in the middle team. One of them will brand. That's going to be Shihua on attack with damage attack. The middle team require Will because we don't have Freya on the middle team. And we have Hua-He providing attack buff and defense break potentially. And lastly, we have the Brandia from the other dungeon that can one-shot the boss after the jump. So that is going to be my middle team. If you don't have this and you don't have this, you can probably replace them with anything that either defense break or branding or both, and you're going to be just fine. You don't have to use these units. Anything else that can do the job that they do, like branding and defense break, you're going to be okay. And on the right team, we have a very standard Billy Girl team that I haven't changed in so long. We have Rage Billy Girl. We have the Colleen that is switchy enough so that she will die after the boss jump. We have Lauren that's tanky enough to survive everything. And we have Jensen to revive and put up attack bar. I forgot to put a will rune there, but I guess it doesn't really matter because I've been using this for so long. I don't even know what runes I have on them. We are lacking some white fight rune, but because I do more than enough damage most of the time, it doesn't really matter. But I should have fight rune on all the unit on the right side here to do even more damage if I can, but I got kind of lazy. I think I should get some fight runes for the right team. So defense break, branding from the Ayuno, big damage. Like, Bellica was almost killing the boss without Ken doing anything. So that was kind of crazy. So after the boss jump go down, the middle team will do some more damage, and Jensen will revive the unit on the right team that die, give the Bellica attack bar, defense break, branding happen, and Brandon actually clap the boss together with the Lightning Emperor. And that is pretty much the R5 team. And this team is so fast. It's crazy. It rarely fails as well. And it burned crystal like absolute madness. So I love R5 farming. Next up will be the Rift Raid dungeon. I actually don't farm these very often. I only farm Dark for the violence, and then I will craft whatever I need if I farm enough R5. So I think most of the time I'll be farming the Dark Bees, and this is going to be my team. If you don't have this guy, he was Auto Hero a while back, so a lot of people have him. But if you're newer to the game, you probably don't have this guy, but you can use Theomas instead of him, and Theomas will do decent damage, and you can use Theomas in all of the dungeon, but Theomas will not hit as hard as him. We have the Astar from the Necro, we have the Ikaru from the Necro, we have Rao from the Necro team, we have Shaman from the Necro team and Giants team, and lastly, you can buy this girl for the nice little crit damage leader skill, and she's a light unit, so she does more damage to the Dark boss right here. And the runtime can go anywhere from like 35 seconds to 40-ish, depending on how many violent proc Lucas will get. And because Lucas is a light unit, Lucas does some insane damage on this boss. It is ridiculous. So if he decides to get some extra cool violent proc, then the boss will go down very quickly. So I'm not sure whether you get more drop rate if you go above 10 million, but so far I don't really care that much if I go above 10 million. I think this is more than enough for now, and I do get legendary drop, I do get purple drop almost all the time. Actually no legendary drop, mostly purple drop, and that is, to be honest, more than enough. So as you can see right there, if Lucas used skill 2 just now and he get an extra turn, he will probably kill the boss before the boss can attack the front line again, and that'll be like a 35-second run. But if the boss attack the front line one more time, then it's gonna be like 40-second. And I mostly farm this dungeon, but here are the team for the other dungeon as well. So let's start with Fire. I'm reusing the unit from earlier. So we have the Doggos, we have Astar for the AoE damage, we have Lucas, and then we have Airgar from the other dungeon. So I don't have to build anything new for this particular dungeon. I could put in Liam here for the water damage dealer and some sort of AoE damage as well, and ignore defense with the boss, but you don't really have to. So I farmed the other bees like once in a very long time when I really dried out all of my crystal reserve to get the weekly reappraisal stone, and that is pretty much when I actually have to farm the other bees once in a while. And maybe when I'm really desperate for that one Swift or Rage or Nemesis or Despair Enchant Gem, then I will have to visit these dungeons. But if you farm enough R5, you will drop more than enough Horn. I mean, not Horn. Horn is super rare. Claw to craft whatever gem you want, which is a great system nowadays. instead of forcing you to farm these things for so long, and it's just very, very inconvenient. But this is gonna be the team for the fire boss, reusing all the unit from all the dungeon. And that is one way to stop building new things every single time. Oh, that's actually usable. I'm gonna keep that for sure. For the water boss, I'll be using a water damage dealer, a dark damage dealer, and whatever wind damage dealer you can put in. I'm using Sonia in here. You can use the Ayunu as well if you have the Wind Anubis for the front line, because Sonia ignore defense damage is absolutely incredible for this boss, and it can kill the boss very, very quickly. So with the normal state and not the groggy state, you actually prefer some sort of ignore defense damage, and you can do a very good chunk of damage on the boss. And with attack buff from Agar, ignoring defense with Sonia is going to be, look at that. You just destroy him. So I think we can set up like a team so that Sonia can always use the ignore defense when the boss is in the normal state. That's going to be the most optimal, because she can just one-shot the boss from like 100 to 0 potentially, if you can. So any wind damage dealer, any water damage dealer together with Agar, and you are good to go. You don't have to run like attack bar boost to care about the freezing thing. Don't worry too much about that. As long as you do a lot of damage, you're gonna finish the boss very, very quickly without the boss ever doing anything to you. I think the water one's probably the easiest because he doesn't do a lot of damage, and he's mainly there to just trying to freeze you. But if you kill him fast, he can't freeze you if he die. So that's gonna be it for the water boss. For the wind boss, using fire damage dealer is gonna be the key, but I'll be reusing Agar, Crow, and Lucas. Once again, you can use a Theomas here because he's elemental neutral. But if you don't have Lucas, you can just put in whatever fire damage dealer like Hua or Hua-He. You're gonna be just fine. Hua-He is amazing for this dungeon because not only she buff attack, she does damage, and she do a very fat heal, and that can really hurt the boss as well. But the vampiric effect from the Agar can allow you to heal back, and that will do some damage to the boss too. And this one's gonna be really easy because if you do a lot of damage, the healing thing that he does doesn't really matter as well, and you just kill him straight up. All of the Rift Beasts are just a quick test for your damage set and how you use better element unit against these dungeons, because if you run fire unit in the wind boss, you do way more damage than any LD unit out there. So just run the damage dealer that have elemental advantage against these boss, and you're gonna have a very, very easy time here. Look at that healing from Hua-He, man. That is so nice. And that's going to be the wind boss. But once again, I don't really farm any of these particular boss. So my team for these will just be reusing all unit. So might not be the most optimal for these dungeons though. So for the light one, you want single target damage. I'll be having Sonia here again. And I'll be throwing in an Isabel that I use for my Guild Siege battle. And she's really fast, which doesn't need to be. She's speed tuned to my Kabila to outspeed Swift Shiklet in Guild defense, and in G3 there's so many insane Swift fish, so she have to be very fast as well so that she can be speed tuned to my other unit and move and one-shot the enemy defense. If she is like plus 150, then she will not move after my Kabila boost, and that can be winning or losing instantly, because if I don't move and the fish or the Miyang take a turn, then it's gonna be very, very troublesome. But she's a great single target, big nuker, dark unit for this dungeon. You can actually use Miho here as well. Miho does insane damage in the front line and can revenge. You don't have to run Sonia. Sonia's there for flex, okay? Anything that's dark, that do good single target damage like Miho is gonna be absolutely incredible for this dungeon. And that's gonna be the light one. Everything runs at a similar time, huh? For this particular dungeon, I don't farm it that much. I think I farmed this thing only a couple times in the entire year, 100 energy each, and I got absolutely nothing. It takes forever every single run, and it required to build so many different things for it as well. So for the first team, just damage. Second team, once again, more damage. And the third team, you want to put in unit that can do damage, that can ignore shield, which is going to be this guy, this family, and this guy is going to be really good for this dungeon. But in all honesty, I just don't farm a dungeon, so I'm not going to show you guys a farming team for this. I think I still farm a lot of 2A because now I'm in the G3 Siege Guild. I need to build more 2A. So I'm just doing 2A building and skilling up, and that's pretty much going to cost all of my dimensional energy most of the time. If I really feel like clearing some of the whole energy, then I'll just throw in a couple Illunia run if I'm not making any 2A at the moment. So I'll be reusing the test shot from the Giants. I'll put in a Sonya for big damage, but any win 5-star damage dealer is gonna be amazing for this one. And then I have this guy for the general attack buff and speed buff for Sonya, and a defense breaker for the boss. And sometimes I just throw in a couple run to clear some energy. But for the most part, I still just do 2-way with like Tesha, Konamiya, and whatever the dungeon require me to do, and that's pretty much it. I really hope they make farming the grind dungeon for this content a bit easier, because it just takes so long, and most of the time you still get blue grinds from it, and it's not even the grind of the runes that you really want. Even though they have narrowed down the grinds that you can get, somehow after spending a couple hundred energy in the rift raid dimension raid thingy, I still barely managed to get the grind I want. I have that despair ancient rune that I've been sitting on for like 5 months, and I spent 300 energy instantly after I got that rune to get the speed grind for it, and I still haven't gotten the speed grind for the ancient rune. So it's just very demoralizing to try and farm that dungeon. So once in a while, I'll just go back in here. Maybe I get a rune, maybe I get a grind, and most of the time I'm still just doing 2-way for skill up or building new 2-way for siege battle. And that is pretty much it. And that's all my farming team for 2023 going to 2024. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching, and really appreciate you.